Then the third principle, this is a very, very important principle. Rational people think at the margin. First of all, what do you mean by rationality? Okay, what do you mean by rationality? Generally, by rationality, we feel the people who take best decision, they are rational. But that is not the complete definition of rationality. Rationality, please keep in mind and write it down if possible. Economists, they suggest, according to the economists, rational people are those who purposefully and systematically collect all the information, process it, and then take the decision so that their satisfaction, utility, or well being, whatever you may call it, that is maximized. I will repeat it. Rational people are those who collect all the decision, process it, and then take the decision to maximize their utility or satisfaction. And that you have to do systematically and purposefully. Systematically means you are taking decisions, collecting informations in one context. When it comes to next context, you are not considering information, you are not processing it, and you are just going by some rule of thumb. Then you are not a rational person. So, systematically and purposefully, you should have a purpose. Okay, I would like to invest my money in real estate. I should collect information about who is the builder, what is the material, what is the builder's reputation, who are the other competitors in the market, what is the locality, what is the future aspect of that particular locality, so on and so forth. So, I should systematically and purposefully collect all the information and then process it. Then only I should invest my money in real estate so as to maximize my profit, utility, satisfaction, whatever you may call it. Let's say you are thinking whether to take admission in IIT Madras or IIT Bombay or IIT Delhi. So, we should collect information about what is the faculty's strength in a particular discipline, what is the infrastructure, what is the quality of the faculty, what is the history about their placement, so on and so forth. So, I must collect all this information systematically and purposefully, then I must process it and then take the decision that maximizes my utility or satisfaction, then I will be treated as a rational person. But in this process, what we assume that there is no cost of information, information is freely available, and human being, they are like supercomputer. That means we have unlimited capacity of information processing. But in reality, that is not always true. Information is actually costly and we have a limited capacity to process the information. Then we are actually not unboundedly rational, rather we have a limitation on our rationality which we call bounded rationality. But for the time being, we are assuming that we are unboundedly rational. You may ask several questions, if that is not valid, why are you assuming that? Economists, they say that instead of posing question on the assumption, just look at the situations and see whether you can analyze and explain those situations based on that particular assumption. So, most of the cases, if you think, can be related to the rational behavior of the individual. There are some cases where rationality fails and we need alternative behavioral models to explain those, but those alternative models suggested by behavioral and experimental economists are beyond the scope of this particular course, Principles of Economics. So, throughout this course, we will assume rationality That means individuals are rational, they collect information systematically and purposefully, unlimited amount of information they collect and they process it like a supercomputer and then they take the decision. That is what is called rationality. Then rational people think at the margin. Margin means when you are thinking, suppose you are a producer, you have already produced 10 units of output. You are thinking whether to go for the 11th unit or not. If you go for the one extra unit, then you need to think what is the cost involved and what is the revenue that I will get out of that extra unit. Suppose the cost for that extra unit is 5 rupees, but the price that prevails in the market is 7 rupees. Well, that means your benefit from that extra unit, which is called marginal benefit. Why it is called marginal? Because that benefit is associated with the last extra unit that you are going to produce. And what is the marginal cost? Let's say it is 5 rupees. Why it is called marginal? Because this cost is associated with the last unit that we are going to produce from 5 to 6 or 6 to 7. If marginal benefit MB or marginal revenue MR is greater than marginal cost, then we will go for producing. So, we will keep on producing as long as marginal benefit is greater than marginal cost, and we will stop at that particular point where marginal benefit is equals to marginal cost. This is one of the strongest principle in economics. Please keep in mind and write it very clearly that equating marginal benefit with the marginal cost is one of the most guiding principles of economics. Everywhere what we do, we always calculate benefit, we will always calculate cost for the last unit, which is called marginal, and we try to equate. As long as marginal benefit is higher than marginal cost, we keep producing. When it equal, we will stop it. So, rational people always think at the margin. When the firm is thinking whether to hire one extra unit of labor or not. Now, if the firm hires one extra unit of labor, what will happen? That extra unit of labor will produce some output, and let's say the value of that last unit of output is 10 rupees, which is called value of the marginal product. Okay, value of the marginal product of labor in this context. And you know what is the wage rate that is prevailing in the market. Okay, so if the wage rate is lower than the value of marginal product, obviously what I should do? The firm should hire more labor. So, as long as the money in monetary terms, the contribution of one extra unit of labor is more than the wage rate, the firm should keep on hiring labor. And at a point when wage rate is equals to value of the marginal product, firm should stop it. So, it is all about marginal analysis. That is what we are talking about. So, this is rational people, as I said, systematically and purposefully they collect information, process it and do the best they can to achieve their objective and make decisions by evaluating cost and benefits of marginal changes. We have already explained. So, incremental adjustment to an existing plan. Okay. Certain examples, when a student considers whether to go for one additional year of studying, so what he or she compares the fees and foregone wages for the extra income, okay, he could earn with the extra year of education. So, marginal cost and benefit. So, let's say without management study, I can earn 10 lakhs. With management studies, I can earn 15 lakhs. So, that means the benefit of that last extra unit of studying is 5 lakhs. What is the cost? You have to calculate in terms of your foregone wage that you could have earned in that 1 year, tuition fees and all those. We have already discussed about opportunity cost. You have to calculate all those for the last 1 year. If you think that your marginal cost is lower than the marginal benefit, if your increment in your salary after management degree, if it is more than the cost that you incurred, then you should actually go for that 1 extra year of studying. When a manager considers whether to increase output, she compares the cost of production and then the benefit, and benefit is basically the price of the last unit that you are going to produce. Then this is principle number 4. People respond to incentives. Okay, rather I would say rational people respond to incentives. So what do you mean by incentives? Generally we think that incentives are basically some amount of money or reward. So when you sell more, then your manager gives you some kind of incentives. But incentives are not always in terms of some kind of reward or prize. Incentive can also be in terms of punishment. Okay, so two things, either reward or punishment, both are incentives. So generally prize or reward or money is given when individual behaves in a certain way that the other person wants to, and punishment is given when the individuals are behaving in a different way than it is expected from him or her. Okay, all right. So that way we can define incentives. Incentives can be either prize or reward, or it can be punishment. So something that induces a person to act. Okay, so as it is defined, it is the prospect of a reward or a punishment. So please keep in mind that punishment is also an incentive. All right. And rational people, they respond to incentives. Now I can give you a simple example. I am saying that in my class, Principles of Economics, if you come on daily basis, then I will give you some 10% marks allotted for class participation. So that means in this particular example, I am simultaneously giving reward as well as punishment. Those students who will be coming regularly, they will get 10 out of 100 as a reward for their regularity. Others who will not come on a regular basis, they will not get the 10 marks. That means they are punished. A punishment is given by not giving 10 marks. Similarly, I can also introduce a quiz in this particular course, which is, let's say, a surprise quiz. That means the date and time is not announced well in advance. Rather, I say, one fine morning when you come to the class, I can all of a sudden announce for that particular quiz. That means what I am doing? I am simultaneously giving some reward who would be coming regularly, because they will only be able to attend and write the quiz, surprise quiz. Others who are not regular, they will miss the quiz, and that way I am going to punish. So this particular incentive, this particular mechanism will motivate the students to come to my class on a regular basis, because I assume students are rational. Here is another example. When gas prices rise, okay, when gas prices rise, what the rational consumers do? They should buy hybrid cars, means which can either go by gas or electricity, instead of buying the gas guzzling SUVs. Okay. To reduce cigarette consumption, sometimes government introduce tax on cigarette prices. By imposing tax, I am basically giving a punishment. This is not a reward. So I am saying you should reduce your cigarette consumption. But look at, by imposing tax, I can reduce only teen smoking. Why teen smoking? Because adults, once they are addicted to cigarette, these incentives might not work. But teenagers who are not yet addicted to cigarette consumption, for them imposing a tax on cigarette might work. Okay, imposition of tax will increase the price of a cigarette, and that basically gives an incentive to reduce your consumption. That is why teen smoking, because adults, if they are addicted, then these incentives may not work. All right. Now here some applications of these principles. For example, you are selling your 1996 Mustang, you have already spent $1,000 for its repairment, and at the last minute the transmission dies, you can pay $600 to have it repaired or sell the car as it is. Okay. So what you should do? In each of the following scenarios, should you have the transmission repaired? You can explain this particular case. So that means I need to consider, if I spend additional 600 rupees, what is the extra price that I am going to get? If the additional money is more than the cost that I am going to incur, then it is justified. Otherwise, it is better to sell as it is. Okay. So here how it is explained. The blue book value is 6,500 if transmission works, 5,700 if it doesn't work. So that means how much you are losing? 6,500 minus 5,700. Okay. And B is blue book value is 6,000 if transmission works, 5,500 if it doesn't work. So that means these are two alternative cases. So in the first case, how much value the transmission is giving you? 6,500 minus 5,700. Additional $800 that you are going to get by repairing the transmission. How much you are spending? 600. So that means it is justified to repair. But in the second case, it gives you only $500 extra in the value of your car, but it requires $600 to repair this. Then why should I go for that? That means it is not justified. Okay. This is how it is explained. Benefit of fixing the transmission is 800. It is worthwhile, but in the second case, it is not. Right? So what is the observation? The $1,000 what you previously spent on repair is irrelevant. We are not considering that. Okay. So that $1,000, as I said, the $1,000 once you spend, that becomes sunk here. That is the sunk cost, that is irrelevant. What matters is the cost and benefit of the marginal repairman. That is why rational people think only at the margin. Okay, so these are some examples. Now, all the 4 examples that we have discussed earlier, they were basically related to how people take decision. Now, here what we are going to discuss is how people interact with each other. So, decision making and interaction, these are 2 different things. While taking your decision, what are the guiding principles we discuss? Firstly, we discuss that people face trade-offs because resource is limited. Then that leads to another principle, that cost of something is what you give up to get it. That is called opportunity cost. Okay, principle number 2. Then we said that rational people think at the margin. Okay, rational people think at the margin. And then at 4, we also discussed that. And how do you define rationality? By collecting information, processing it, and taking the decision. And fourthly, we discussed rational people respond to incentives. So that means these principles in nutshell, they can explain individuals' behavior, how people take decisions. But they are not talking about interaction between 2 individuals, 2 economic agents. Now here, what we are going to do is this principle, what we are going to discuss now, they will explain how people interact. Now look at principle number 5. Trade can make everyone better off. This is also a fantastic principle. See, in our society, people do different types of work. So instead of being self-sufficient, we specialize in a particular area. For example, as a teacher, I concentrate only on teaching and doing research. I am not spending my time for cooking. I am not spending my time for cleaning my vehicle. I am not spending my time to cut my hair, so on and so forth. Now, the question is why I am not doing it? I am not cooking my own food because it does not mean that I don't know cooking. I also know cooking. Sometimes I say that I might be knowing better cooking than the lady who comes to my house and cook, but still I am not doing it because that 1 or 2 hours of time which is required to make my own food, I can spend in teaching and research, and that way I can generate more output. So again, the opportunity cost concept is applicable here. So opportunity cost of my time for cooking is huge, because the same time if I spend for teaching and research, let's say I can get 10,000 rupees output. And how much I am paying to that lady for the entire month? Maybe some 3 to 4,000 rupees, or maybe 5,000 rupees. So you can easily understand, 5,000 rupees if I spend, I can get my cooked food. And here I am earning 1 hour time if I spend for teaching and research, some 10,000 rupees. Because of that, I am specializing in teaching and research. The other person is coming and doing the cooking. Barber is specializing in hair cutting, and so on and so forth. So in a society then, everyone is interacting with each other. The cooking lady is coming to my house, spending her time for cooking, generating income from my home. Then she is spending that in some other aspects. The barber is specializing in haircut and other things, and then that way I am going to the salon and then taking the service from him. and that 1 hour of time I am not specializing in haircut because I have my opportunity cost which is huge. So that way it makes me better off, it makes the barber also better off. And barber is sending his or her son to me for studying. Barber is not trying to specialize in teaching and trying to solve his or her son's physics problem, might be. Because he is not efficient in that way. So if the barber makes an attempt to solve a physics problem, you can understand how much time it requires. The same amount of time, if he spend his salon, he will earn 10,000 rupees. Out of that, he can easily spend 2,000 rupees and get the things done from me. Similarly, if I try to specialize in my haircut, you can understand how much time I need to spend. Even after that also, the kind of haircut what I will get, I can go and move around. So that is why I am specializing in teaching, barber is specializing in haircut, cooking lady is specializing in cooking. Every one of us, we are interacting with each other in the society and we are exchanging our services or goods to each other. Here what we are doing? We are trading our services. I am trading my service to the barbers. Barber is trading his time to me. The cooking lady is supplying his time or labor to me. And that way we all are exchanging our services or we all are trading our services. And that way trade makes everyone better off. So rather than being self-sufficient, people can specialize in producing one good or service and exchange it for others. Okay. So by specializing in teaching and research, I am exchanging it and I am getting money. And with money, I can buy all other items. So I need not learn cultivation, I need not learn haircut, I need not learn cooking, so on and so forth. Okay. So I should learn only how to teach and how to do research, and that way I can generate money. That is true even at the country level also. Countries can also benefit from trade and specialization. Okay. India, let's say, is specializing in agriculture. China is specializing, let's say, in manufacturing. Then India and China can engage themselves in a particular trade where India will export her agricultural products to China, China will export her manufacturing products to India. India may also export her agricultural products to the US, and US can export the software items to India. That way, trade can make India, China, USA, all the countries better off. Sometimes trade can offer you a better price. Suppose in the domestic country, price of leather is 200 rupees. But if the same leather items, if I export to the US, I can get a better price. So trade can make everyone better off. So what I can do, I can easily buy cheaper items from other countries. India can buy manufacturing goods from China, and that makes India better off because producing those items in India itself involves huge amount of cost, because India is not specialized in those activities, in those production. Then principle number 6, markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity. Before we talk in detail about that, we must first understand what is market. Can you think of what is market? Generally, we think that market is actually a place where buying and trading, buying and selling happens. That is the very particular idea. You go to fish market, then you can see how people are buying and selling fishes. You can go to potato market or vegetable market, where you can see buying and selling vegetables. So, there is a place, but market need not be always a particular, need not be a place all the times. So, defining market by a particular place, you are actually getting a very narrow definition of market. What is the broader definition? Market is basically a medium that facilitates transaction between buyer and sellers. It may or may not be a market. There are certain markets for which there is no place. For example, if you think about the stock market, where is this place? By sitting in Chennai, I can invest in the Bombay Stock Exchange. I can invest in the Shanghai Stock Exchange, or I can even invest my money in the New York. So, I do not have to go to that particular place. So, it is a medium, it is an online market. If you think about real estate, is there any place where all the builders are bringing their 2 BHK, 3 BHK, 1 BHK or 4 BHK apartments? We are buying and taking the apartments back to our own place and putting it? No, there is no market like that. But there is a real estate market, that means there is no place like that. So, place is not required for real estate market. Place is not required for the stock market. So, basically it is a medium of exchange. It can be a place or it can be virtual, online. So, basically we need to remember the market is a medium of exchange. Okay. So, here even though they are selling a group of buyers and sellers, but in the bracket what we mentioned need not be a single place. But in market definitely there would be a buyers and sellers, and that way market helps facilitating exchange between buyers and sellers. Okay. And then when I say market is a good way to organize economic activity, what does it mean? See, we have already discussed that in our society resource is scarce but demand is unlimited. So, that means the question is then, what goods to produce? Should we produce gun? Should we produce butter? Should we produce paddy, or should we produce computers? Who will decide? Market decides. So, based on the prices or rather relative prices of different items, market tells the society should produce this particular product because there is a demand. So, that means these are the things. By organizing economic activity, we mean what goods to produce. And then, if you recall, we have already said what is efficient allocation of resources. Goods should be produced by those producers who are cost effective. And who will be cost effective? Those who are having better technologies. And market will then tell you how to produce. Suppose you have a technology, if you apply that, your cost of production is 10 rupees. I have a technology, if I apply that, my cost of production is only 5 rupees. That means you cannot sustain in the market. If you want to sustain in the market, you must adopt to the technology what I have. That is the efficient technology. Okay. So, that means indirectly market is telling you how to produce. That means which particular technology to use for production. Then the question is, how much will you produce? Will you produce 1 bag, 2 bag, 4 bag or 5 bags of rice? Who will decide? Market will decide, because market will tell you about the demand. So, you go to the market and you see, as I told you already, rational people think at the margin. At the margin, when you are thinking from going from 4 to 5 fifth units of rice production, what is the price I am getting and what is the cost? That these things are decided in the market. Who will get them? That means who will be the buyer? Everyone wants rice. That does not mean that everybody would be able to buy rice. What I told earlier, goods should be consumed by those customers who value them maximum, whose willingness to pay is the maximum. And how do you get to know? You have to go to the market and see. Okay, that way market is deciding everything. What goods to produce, how much to produce, who will buy those items, everything is decided by the market. So that is why we say that markets are usually a good way to organize economic activity. Now, the moment I say usually a good way, that means there are cases where market fails actually to allocate the resources efficiently. That means to organize economic activities efficiently. What are those cases in which market fails? Those cases we will discuss in our next class. Thank you.